We're an island nation, drawn to the sea that surrounds us. A playground for some. For others, it's where they make their living. But the sea's unpredictable. It can change in an instant.
The sea takes no prisoners. You always have to be prepared for the worst.
The sea is a beast. If you weren't anxious about it, you're not doing the right job.
The water was freezing.
I was thinking I was going to die.
There to save our lives is a volunteer army of over 5,000 ordinary people, ready to leave their jobs, their families, and race to our rescue.
Steady, steady. Go for it.
When the pagers go off, your heart stops. Is this a life and death situation?
There. In the water.
You're okay, pal.
Let go of the sail, mate. Let go of the sail.
Even that 1 second could make a huge difference to someone at home. 1 minute they've got a son or a daughter, the next minute they may not.
There we go. Emily, high five. Well done. Nice one.
I didn't think we'd get them back. I was just thinking, just please.
Are you the parents?
The lifeboat crew, without them, there's no doubt about it, we'd have lost our girls.
Equipped with their own cameras,
Am I switched on?
It's on.
the crews give us a unique insight into every call-out as only they see it.
Good stuff, that's it.
Speeding into the roughest storms, searching for people who may only have moments to live.
Gotcha.
For those who risk their lives, it has become a way of life.
If something goes wrong, you could be the only person between them and death.
Lying on the southeastern coast of Scotland is the small harbour town of Dunbar. There's been a lifeboat here since 1808.
Dunbar's it's a nice little place. It's a nice town. You know, people's friendly. It's called Sunny Dunny because it gets the most out as the sunshine seemingly. But there's plenty of coastal walks and that, you know, around about, a couple of beaches and that. So yeah, it's a nice little place. Yeah.
While Dunbar may be one of the sunniest places in Scotland, it also has some rugged and unforgiving shores carved out by the North Sea.
The coastline around Dunbar is very attractive. Got the beautiful harbour, sandstone cliffs, there's a lot of gullies, we have a lot of caves. I've lived here for 15 years. There's always another wee new nook and cranny that I want to go and explore.
The town's location on the outer edge of the Firth of Forth means it faces the full force of the elements all year round.
Sea around Dunbar is freezing. This is the North Sea. We're exposed to the north and the east. The wind is biting, the water is cold. It's not nice out there, particularly in the winter.
November. The sun's out, but the sea temperature is less than 10 degrees. The Dunbar crew get an emergency call from the Coast Guard.
Got to the station and the launch authority said, right, we've got children cut off by the tide. And that was the first bit of information we got.
Take it up off the boat?
Yeah, just in case.
IOB, this is Aberdeen Coast Guard. Roger, ma'am, you're launched on service to report of 3 children stuck in the I cave.
The children called the Coast Guard on 999 themselves. They're stranded in a cave near the town's beach.
Our cave is a small cave just outside the entrance of Dunbar Harbour.
Hold on.
At low water, very accessible. However, anywhere after about half tide, the eye cave does become inaccessible.
The tide's on its way back in. Today is a spring tide, meaning the sea will come in higher than any other point this month, rising over 15 feet in 6 hours.
3 children out, 2 12-year-olds, 1 11-year-old.
When kids are involved, it's time critical because sometimes they'll try and take more risks because they think they can do it without thinking the actual situation through. So you just want to get there and make sure that they're safe.
Have you hit enter on the radio? You'll clear it. Press clear. That's it.
It could be your kid, and if it was your kid, you would do absolutely anything on this world to save it. You really just want to do your best and get there as soon as possible.
The sea still has another 3 feet to rise until high tide in just an hour's time.
They've been there a long time. The tide was still coming in. They would have been exposed to the wind as well. That would all add to the coldness, and it wouldn't take long before the cold would affect them. We weren't sure what we were going to reach when we got there.
See them? 1, 2 and 3. Yep. So what's going to have to happen is I'm going to have to go in very nice and easy. Yep.
Just 10 minutes after the call came in, the Dunbar crew arrive on the scene.
You could see the 3 kids, and they were quite tight up to the back of the cave.
Just stay there, please!
The worst thing that the kids could have done was if they'd seen us and tried to make their way towards us in the freezing cold. So I tried my best to tell them to sit still.
You stay there!
The cave is only 30 meters away. The crew can't risk the children trying to swim out to them.
Roger, I can hear your crew member shouting to the children. Can you confirm it?
But getting the boat to the children means navigating through a maze of rocks just below the surface of the water.
If the prop got damaged, that's us now a casualty as well. So from trying to help kids, we've ended up becoming a casualty ourselves, and that's the last thing you want.
I'm thinking I might go in this wee bit here and in.
Okay, can you see the shadow?
Yeah. I'll get the 2 of you just to go on your knees. Hold on to stand up and just guide me in.
Time running out, the crew head in as quickly as they dare.
Just give us a shout, Jamie, if you see any.
Roger, many thanks, sir.
Your hips going in there, Gary. I think you're better going in here.
We tried to go in what looked like a channel, but Jamie was able to see there was a couple of rocks that we just wouldn't be able to get past.
Hold on.
The wind was affecting the waves as well, so it was difficult to see if the waves were lapping over rocks or if it was just the fact that that's how they were being forced into that corner. I just wasn't sure on how I would get the kids out of there.
Okay.
Battling the sea conditions, the helm, Gaz, must time his approach to the cave perfectly while keeping his crew safe.
2 secs, Jamie, 2 secs.
You've then got that decision to send your 2 crew members off the boat. The last thing I want is my crew members to go when there's a wave and injure themselves.
But with large sets of waves now coming right up to the children, the crew must act fast.
Okay. Right, I'm going to go in now, guys. You can probably get the nose in, Gary. Okay. Yeah, I'm watching. We're on tilt as well. Right, that's me sitting there, Bex. I'm happy for you to go.
While Jamie and Bex assess the 3 children, Gaz must keep the D-Class in position, ready to evacuate the crew and the kids.
When you're holding onto the lifeboat and you're trying to do your normal things and you're getting battered left and right with these waves, with the wind and the weather, it all adds up and just makes you that wee bit conscious of all what's going on. Tried to hold the boat as steady as I could, and then there was a couple of larger waves that came in. One of them lifted me up and kind of sat me on top of a rock that I wasn't able to see at the time.
The propeller hits the rock and stalls the engine, just as the crew are ready to get back on board.
2 seconds, 2 seconds. Come on, come on.
Come on.
It's all right, it's all right, it's all right.
The engine's going again. Gaz must now keep the boat in position long enough to get the 3 children down the rocks and through the surf.
Watch this wave coming in, Jamie. Tell me when.
I was sitting on the boat. I could feel when it was sitting on the rocks, combined with when Gaz was telling me there was a wave coming.
Okay, go now, you've got a nice spell.
You just have to make a very split-second decision. They had to just essentially walk into the water and onto the boat.
Okay, you've got a couple of waves coming in, just watch yourself. That. Good stuff. Well done, guys. You all right? Yeah, good stuff. Well done, good stuff. Good job, guys, good job.
Okay, buddy. She's cold. She's been shivering for a wee bit.
Good.
So hold us to the lock. Okay.
The three children, 11-year-old Chloe, her 12-year-old cousin Rachel and friend Luke, all live in Dunbar and regularly hang out together.
We had a sleepover, me and Rachel, and then we went round to Luke's house.
Rachel was like, oh, come on, let's go out and stuff. So I was like, okay. I was kind of like, I didn't really want to go out, but I went out anyway.
What up? Adam, first time you've been on a boat.
I think I'm braver than my friends. I just like to go exploring. That's how we ended up getting stuck in the cave. I was like, yeah, let's just go here. It looks cool.
How long have you been in there?
We were just playing Truth or Dare, and then all of a sudden the tide was like quickly coming in.
Right, we'll get a bit of speed up. Woo!
Luke and me were like, oh, we should phone the Coast Guard.
Rachel was like, we're not calling them. Like, we're not calling them. There's no chance that we're calling them.
I was getting quite angry at the fact they wanted to phone them because I didn't want to get in trouble by my mum. I like tried to ignore them for a wee bit.
So we just dialed the number and then called them and then put it on speaker, and then Rachel was like, wait, you've called them?
I want to just reassure your mum and dad that you're okay. Yeah?
When they mentioned our parents, I was like, please, just don't tell my mum, I don't want to get in trouble.
We'll jump out the crew and we'll walk on and we'll leave them in.
There's always that, like, we think we better tell your mum and dad, and in your eyes, and you're like, oh, do you have to really tell mum and dad? But I'm sure mum and dad will appreciate the fact that they still done the right thing. Yeah, they might not have checked the tide times that day, but protocols they went through to get help in place was ideal.
You all right? You just stay there and we'll get you right to the top.
After being checked over by the ambulance crew, Rachel, Luke and Chloe were all escorted home.
I was in a wee bit of trouble. My mum said, just go for a shower. Then I went for a shower, obviously, to get warm. And then she just looked at me and started laughing. So, yeah, I didn't say very much of it after that. Yeah.
Good man. How about you?
I was only grounded for a day, but I did feel like I let down my dad and mum a bit.
You just take that right off?
I have not been back to the cave that we got stuck in. I'm too scared to. Even if the tide's right out, I just don't want to go back in. Yeah, it's made me more cautious.
Across the UK and Ireland, on average, a lifeboat launches every hour. And when they do, the crews know it will be a race against time.
Every time the pager go off, for me, mean commitment, excitement, but also be ready, be prepared.
Hold on, boys.
When someone is in the water, it's time critical, no question about that.
There's a fine line between going as quickly as possible but making sure you're keeping adrenaline under control and making sure decisions are made with a good, clear mindset, really.
Let's get you out of here, OK?
One moment could have the head above the water, next thing they're under the water, and all we can do is get there in as best time as we can. The difference between life and death can be a matter of seconds.
Just 70 miles southeast of Dunbar, across the border in England, is the port of Blythe.
We are the largest town in the county of Northumberland, historically involved in coal mining. The port had a period of kind of stagnant development, but more recently the renewable energies have kind of picked the port back up again, and a lot of leisure use.
Lifeboat volunteers have been putting to sea from Blythe for over 200 years. One of their newest recruits is 20-year-old Jordan. He signed up as soon as he was old enough.
I originally went down to the station when I was about 16, almost 17, and I got told that I was too young to do it at the time, so I had to go back when I was 17, so I went back more or less on my 17th birthday. And since I started, I never looked back, really.
Being the youngest on the crew, you are treated fairly, but of course, like everywhere, you've got some people that are a bit practical jokers, so they can play some tricks on you if you're being young. When I first joined the lifeboat crew, I got told to sit and count how many times a wind turbine spin divided by so many numbers, and that was the current wind speed. Spent hours doing that, and yeah, it just was so wrong. It wasn't at all.
Living just 200 metres from the lifeboat station, Jordan is often the first to arrive when a call comes in.
There is a wide range of things we can be tasked to do. It could be people in inflatables at the beach, it could be some boats that haven't been out all winter, that go out, they break down, we've got to go and assist them. But also people that may go fishing and just don't mean to get in trouble, but you know, things go wrong, weather changes, so they do get in trouble. When the pager goes off, you know, you've always got to prepare yourself for the worst because you never know what it's going to be.
Monday, mid-September. Calm winds, flat seas. 6 o'clock is the Blythe crew's weekly pager test.
The pager test went off, muted the pager, then the pager didn't stop, like beeping really, and then we're like, oh yeah, we've actually got a job here.
Launching a potential person in water at Sea S04. Yeah. You're on the radio, my friend. Cool. I'll drive. Yeah, ready to go anymore.
A man is missing. His last reported position was a rocky beach nearly 4 miles down the coast.
Is that a handheld?
The missing man left for the beach at 9 a.m. It's now well past 6 in the evening.
Dunbar Coast Guard, this is Blythe ILB, that's just launched on service, channel 0, over.
You're launched on service to the search for a missing 8-year-old male, believed to be that's the Old Hartley car park on the rocks.
As we were heading out the piers, we started receiving information from the Coast Guard about the age of the casualty. This was an extremely elderly gentleman. You're always worried about older people. They're a lot more frailer, a lot more susceptible to the cold.
The 80-year-old man's worried family reported him missing after he went to catch lobsters at Seaton Sluice, a rocky beach southeast of Blythe.
Along the cliffs and the rock front, there's quite a lot of dangers. It's uneven underfoot. There's quite a lot of algae on the rocks that make them really slippy, and there's always the chance that there's going to be a rock slide as well. You can be in a lot of serious trouble if you fall there.
The fact that 9 hours had gone by since this guy had been missing was of a big concern to us. The tide's come in and gone out again in the time that's lapsed here. So we were uncertain whether he was going to be in the water, if he was still going to be on the shoreline.
Worst case scenario is that the man is in the sea. With the average water temperature at this time of year just 13 degrees, hypothermia would be setting in rapidly.
The chance of someone being found in a good state after, you know, any real period of time in the sea is few and far between, really.
You have got to set your mind for the worst possible case scenario, so you've mentally prepared. You could be going for a body.
The station's faster B-class Atlantic 75 has also been launched. But even with both boats out, there's still 3 square miles of search area to cover around Seaton Sluice and Hartley Bay.
We came alongside them and we come up with a bit of an action plan for the D-class to head south, and we were to head further south and then cover the coast north and hopefully come together in the middle and cover the area as efficiently as possible. You know, you're thinking, where is this guy?
Dunbar Coast Guard, Blythe ILB, that's just arrived at Crack Point. The shoreline is south towards St Mary's Island.
Since the man was last seen, the tide has risen 14 feet and is now heading back out again. The crew still have no idea if he's on shore or has been dragged out to sea.
8-year-old, yellow waders, yellow jacket.
Right, we'll stop and listen for a second. Hello?
No. 8-year-old, yellow waders.
The missing 80-year-old Alan has been coming to this stretch of coast to catch lobsters for years.
Alan went out at 9:30 in the morning, and I was going out at 2, and he said he would be back by then, but he wasn't. I thought I'd always forgotten the time. Normally he was quite safe on the rocks, but he had a couple of falls and he was going dizzy. In that perspective, I suppose I was starting to panic a bit, wondering what had happened to him. When I got to 4, I was getting really worried because I knew the tide would be coming in. So I phoned my daughter. Her and her husband went down to the rocks, found his car, but no sign of Alan.
Straight away, I kind of knew there was something wrong. We went down shouting on him, and there was no response whatsoever.
Hello?
I was trying to stay calm for my mum and what have you, but inside I was just panicking. We both were kind of thinking he'd fall and be knocked unconscious, and so it swept out because the tide was quite high then.
Standing there.
There, that is, person there, on the rocks, mate.
They're not in yellow.
I spotted something on the shoreline, wasn't 100% certain that it was the Casualty because of the clothing that we'd been told he was wearing.
Excuse me? Excuse me?
Yeah, pick us, we're getting shallow, mate.
Hello there?
Hello?
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 I did shout across quite a few times and didn't get anything back. We waved, didn't get anything back, and realised at that point that it was the Casualty.
That's him.
Right.
Finally, the crew have found Alan, but he's immobile and unresponsive.
Hello, young man. How are you doing? This is Slide ILD. We have made contact with an elderly individual on the rocks. Appears to be injured.
You can't sort yourself out, can you, man?
Oh, be up there no time if it wasn't for it.
I can imagine, right. Pickers! First aid, left hip. Thinks he's broken something.
Whereabouts did you have your slip?
And you've managed back to here.
After slipping on the rocks, Alan dragged himself to the cliff's edge to escape the incoming tide. He's been stranded here injured and cold for several hours.
Casualty was in a pretty bad way when we got to him. He was obviously cold. There was possibilities that there was hypothermia setting in. He was complaining of pain down one of his sides and into his leg. I was genuinely concerned for him.
Yeah, the Casualty is approximately 300 metres north towards Crag Point from you.
I can't walk with this.
Don't worry about that, we'll sort something out, we'll get you out of here.
Although the crew have found Alan, he's not out of danger yet. They urgently need to get him medical treatment.
It's getting up there.
You're about 6 or 7. More? A bit more than that. We're taking on face value that he's in significant amount of pain. That was clear, you know, he was ashen white. He's been out for 9 hours. There's potential dehydration and hypothermia.
I'm going to try and get this bag off your back to make it easier for you, all right?
The tide was still dropping at this point, so thinking, you know, the longer we take with extraction, actually the further away from the boat we're going to be.
We're going to hand you over to this young gentleman here.
Hello, Alan. All right. You all right?
A local coastal rescue unit, the Tynemouth Volunteer Life Brigade, has arrived to help extract Alan. But the outgoing tide is now taking the lifeboat away from the beach at a rate of 3 feet an hour.
Right, we'll go on lift, ready, set, lift. Now. There you go, great. Down. Brilliant job, Alan. Give yourself up on that.
Fly there, be mobile. That is the Casualty in a stretcher. We're going to start heading down to the water's edge over.
On lift, ready, set, lift.
Mobile, yes, that's acknowledged.
The large rocks and uneven terrain underfoot mean the crew can only carry Alan down the beach in small stages.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, move.
Going?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, stop.
On move, very steady move.
Got him last control.
Okay, moving.
Yeah, no worries.
The Casualty was in quite a lot of pain when we were transferring him. Stretchers aren't the most comfortable things. The rocks are all wet, they're uneven.
Ready, set, lift.
Right, let go. Clear.
Cheers, Catherine. Cheers, Dave.
The D-class crew take the Casualty through the shallow waters and transfer him to the larger Atlantic.
3, 2, 1, lift.
Nice one.
To be taken to the safety of the harbour, where Alan's injuries can be assessed by the waiting paramedics.
I was coming across the rocks and it was a flat rock and it was wet. I fell smack, and as soon as I hit the bottom, the rock, I thought, that's bad. I thought the tide would be shortly coming in, so I couldn't stay where I was too long. So I had to crawl off, you know. There was no one about. I was isolated. There was no one anywhere, you know, for to call their attention. I was more than thankful for the boat's crew that picked us up. More than thankful. I can't praise them enough.
"20 minutes later, the Atlantic makes it back to Blythe.
Lift.
Try and keep still and keep puffing on your gas, all right?
It's been nearly 10 hours since Alan left home. Now he can be reunited with his family.
Have you? We've seen all the trouble you've caused. It was quite shocking because I didn't realise how bad he actually was. He was very cold. I think because we didn't know the extent of his injuries either, that was quite frightening because he couldn't move. You've got to be careful. You're wasting your breath. It could have been quite easily another outcome. If he'd fallen differently, if he'd been closer to the sea, it could have ended so badly and we would never have found him.
I cried, actually. It was relief. Yeah, I was really, as I say, just overcome because he was okay.
Oh, yes.
Hey, you're right.
15 minutes after arriving back at the station, the paramedics arrive.
So apart from your left hip, are you hurting anywhere else? No. No? He's right. I think it's going to be a trip to hospital again next year.
Alan's left hip was broken so badly, doctors had to perform hip replacement surgery.
To take that type of pain of breaking your hip, a man of that age, managing to grit his teeth and drag himself, you know, back across the rocks and get himself to a position of safety. It shows the makings of the man, I think.
Ready, brace, lift.
To save someone's life, it feels special. Someone aged 8-year-old had been out for 9 hours and we still had a positive outcome was phenomenal.
A 140 miles southeast of Blythe, across the Pennines, on the opposite coast of England, is Hoylake.
Hoylake's a little village. It's a lovely place to live. We have a beautiful shoreline. It's quite quiet, but it's only 20 minutes from Liverpool.
Hoylake's one of the oldest lifeboat stations in the UK. It was founded in 1803, actually before the RNLI was founded itself in 1824.
Our history is very important to us at the station, and I think there's a strong sense of respect to the crews that went before us.
Also demanding respect is the local coastline. Hoylake lies between two large rivers, the Dee and the Mersey, which create dangerous currents and a landscape of ever-shifting sands.
There's a lot of expanses of beach at low water, which introduces the element of being cut off by the tide, and the mud, where people can sink.
We've got a very high tidal range, 10 metres on the biggest spring tides. The tide tends to find its easiest way in, so when it rises, it'll fill the entire bank in one go. You'll be looking at the shore and it's flooding. And you just look away from it and you look back and it's completely covered the bank.
Hoylake may be one of the oldest lifeboat stations in the UK, but it has one of the latest and more unusual vessels in the RNLI fleet. Introduced in 2002, 4 stations across the network now operate rescue hovercraft. So far, they've been launched over 1,200 times, saving 64 lives. And they're perfectly equipped for Hoylake's tidal mudflats and shifting sandbanks.
So I'm a commander and a pilot of the hovercraft. In flight, as it's called, it barely has any contact with the ground other than the sails gliding across. Fantastic for the areas we operate in. The hovercraft is a very quirky Heath Robinson piece of equipment in general. Very British. Can be a little unpredictable, but it's the kind of thing you learn to love after flying it for a few years.
August, a warm, cloudy day. A 999 call has come in. Someone has seen a man in trouble out on the mudflats.
All we knew was there was a chap stuck in the mud. It was 10 to 15 minutes flight time. That's all we knew, really.
The station's hovercraft, Hurley Spirit, is launched immediately. The man is stuck in the mud off the coast of Liso Bay, 3 miles northeast of Hoylake.
On a show like this, the first thing we would do is check the tide. We need to know where the water is.
And it was approximately half tide on the flood, so the tide was rising and the tide was flowing at its fastest.
The crew push the hovercraft as fast as they dare, racing the incoming tide to get to the Casualty before the sea does.
You can be looking at a mile of sand, and that's quite difficult to do because there can be huge pieces of wood, cans or anything, which is why we're taught how to scan the horizon, make sure we miss nothing.
After 8 minutes searching, the crew spots someone in the mud ahead.
I think it was in two minds when we spotted the Casualty. It was great that we knew where he was. There was a little bit of pressure when we saw the tide. And it wasn't really till we were almost upon him we saw just how close the tide was.
The instinctive feeling that you have seeing someone in that sort of situation is that this person needs help, and they need help right now.
We probably had somewhere in the order of 10 to 15 minutes to get him out before things were going to start getting a bit tricky.
At the controls, Commander Nick must get the 4-ton hovercraft in as close to the immobile Casualty as he can.
Potentially fairly hazardous part of the whole operation is coming alongside your Casualty safely. The problem you have as the pilot is you're very low down, so your visibility is poor, so it's key for the commander and the crew to act as the eyes of the pilot and count the pilot down, give them whatever direction they need to come alongside safely.
2 local council lifeguards are on the scene, but they can't risk getting any closer to the Casualty in the soft mud.
It's a bit of a balance between being too close, potentially scaring the Casualty or even ourselves, or too far away that it's hard for us to work that Casualty in the mud.
The Casualty was sat in the mud. I think it was incredibly lucky that the Casualty was facing away from the water. If he was facing the other direction, he'd have been able to see the water coming towards him.
If people know the tide's coming in and they're stuck, some people may panic.
Particularly in a mud rescue, the more you panic in mud, the more you'll get stuck, and the harder it'll be to help the Casualty out. It was clear just from looking at him that he was really stuck. If he'd have pushed down against the sand, he'd have just sunk in further.
The man is stuck fast, and with the tide rising, the crew must get him out without becoming casualties themselves.
Our first responsibility is to make sure we don't end up in the same predicament as the Casualty, so a lot of the interior parts of the hovercraft, all the seats and the benches and the locker covers, are all double up as mud mats, which you can place around the Casualty.
They spread out the pressure of anybody walking on them so that they can operate safely on the mud and that they don't sink in themselves. First thing that Nick the commander did was pass Dave and I shovels so that we could start digging the casualty out. But it was clear that the shovels just weren't up for the job. We were quite close into him, and if we'd have put the shovel in the wrong place, we could have ended up injuring the casualty's legs.
In that circumstance, you can only use hands. We needed to get our hands in there and move the mud, and then we could feel where his legs were.
The mud was so thick, and the smell was atrocious, but we just kept digging.
The water was flooding in fairly quick at that time.
Over the casualty's shoulder, we could see the tide racing in.
The mud tends to be like a really thick stew, and of course it's not like you're moving it from one place to the other, you're moving it out and then it's going back.
Once I'd moved enough sand out the way, I started pulling his leg. I could feel his leg coming. Dave started scooping out a bit more mud, and as he just kept going, eventually the magic moment came where his leg just popped out.
We dealt with one leg at a time. We got one out, put it on the mud mat, dealt with the other one, got the other one out.
It was certainly a sense of relief for me. I'm sure it was for the casualty as well. But at the same time, there's still the risk of the mud that was all around us, so we made sure that he was supported on the boards and that we had a safe way of getting him back on board the hovercraft and out of harm's way.
"20 minutes after the alarm was raised, the exhausted casualty is pulled aboard, just in the nick of time.
By the time the casualty was sat on the hovercraft was surrounded by tide.
I'm so grateful for that.
No problem. Once the casualty was on board the hovercraft, obviously that's not the end of it. We're still all thinking about the casualty to make sure that he wasn't suffering the effects of hypothermia.
Yeah, that's going to be the hardest thing.
We made sure he was fit and well and happy. A bit cold, but otherwise fine. He was unlucky to have got into the predicament that he was in. The casualty had just gone off for a walk like he often does. Things had changed, and he just caught him out. And lucky that between him and us, we got him out. Quick 10-15 minute flight back to the boathouse, nice hot shower, cup of tea.
It was only really after we arrived back at the station, once we set the hovercraft down, I think that's the moment, certainly for me, that I thought to myself, what could have been if things hadn't turned out the way that they did?
Alongside the crew's quick thinking and expertise, the unique rescue capabilities of the hovercraft were central to the success of this shout.
If we didn't have the hovercraft, it would have been incredibly difficult to rescue that casualty given the time pressure.
In that situation, for us, the hovercraft really proved its worth. It did the job that it's designed to do. It resulted in a life being saved.
Just 14 miles along the coast from Hoylake in North Wales, the seaside resort of Rhyl. A sunny but windy August day.
I was just in town when the pagers burst into life. We phoned the Coast Guard to find out that there was a report of 2 young girls getting swept out to sea. It was an ebbing tide, it was a very strong offshore wind. I knew straight away that the incident potentially could be serious.
2 teenage girls have been caught in the outgoing tide and taken over 100 meters out to sea. Lifeguards are in the water attempting to rescue them.
We could hear some radio talk between the Coast Guard and the lifeguard saying the girls had been recovered, but they were in quite a bad way.
Both girls have been pulled out of the sea and are now on the lifeboat, but they're in a critical condition. Shock and hypothermia are rapidly taking hold of them.
Hello, Coast Guard, this is RNLI. We've got both casualties in the boat. We're going to take them back to the boathouse and continue assessing. Just send the ambulance as soon as possible, over.
When we pulled them out of the water and brought them onto the shore, everyone became switched on straight away. They knew what they had to do. Time was of the essence. This was a real bad situation these 2 girls were in.
just going to put this on your sweetheart, okay?
The fact they've been pulled from the water, it doesn't mean they're safe. There's a massive risk of secondary drowning. You only need less than a quarter of an egg cupful in your lungs to actually kill you.
Have you taken in any water? Did you swallow any? Yeah.
Secondary drowning is a potentially fatal medical condition. If water is inhaled, the lungs can become inflamed, stopping the flow of oxygen to the bloodstream.
You okay, my lovely, yeah? How old are you? 13, yeah? Okay.
The two girls have been in the cold waters of the Irish Sea for half an hour. Paramedics have been called out, but are currently 15 minutes away. The crew must get the girls into the warmth of the boathouse as soon as possible.
Both casualties have taken on a lot of water. We're carrying them into the crew room to warm them up if we can get the ambulance as soon as possible over.
We have big sick and little sick markers. These two girls were absolutely big sick.
Kick your legs over and straight into the boathouse.
We had lifeboats, lifeguards, coast guards, police.
Just up to the top about the ambulance, okay?
Everybody was there, and one purpose was to save these two girls.
Alright, what's your name? Tyler. Tyler, okay, Tyler. You're going to be in a little bit of shock after what's happened.
Until the paramedics arrive, the volunteers of the lifeboat crew and Coast Guard rescue team must prevent the girls getting any colder and keep them stable and conscious.
Start us off for a count of 10.
When it's children that are involved, that steps it up a gear, because you think of the parents, you think about your own family definitely, and it makes you think, well, it could be one of ours, yeah?
I'm just going to swap this mask over, okay?
There's a lot of things going through your mind at the time. Your heart's going inside and you're panicking a little bit, but the thing for us is not to show that.
I want you to breathe in, hold, and then out slowly. Okay, that's it. Then in, hold.
In that situation, things can deteriorate very, very quickly, so you're constantly talking and monitoring.
Okay, I'm just going to put my hand on your tummy a second, okay?
The last thing we want them to do is to go unconscious and then potential cardiac arrest because of the cold.
Okay, very rapid on this one, Martin. So remember, in, hold, and out. That's it.
The team must carefully manage the girl's body temperature. If it rises too quickly, her vital organs could shut down.
Try not to fall asleep for me, okay? Just try and stay awake.
Tyler, what day is it?
Say again.
Saturday.
I was trying to be very calm and reassuring with her, you know, getting her to answer questions. I ask her the same question a few times, and that gives me the level of their mindset. Because sometimes you can ask them a question, they can give you the answer, ask them again, and they don't know. You know, it's their level of consciousness.
What's your surname, Tyler? You don't know your surname? No, what day is it? You don't know? Okay, what I want you to do then is just calm your breathing again for me. Breathe in. Hey?
I'm going to die.
No, you're not going to die.
No, you'll be absolutely fine.
Would we be just kneeling here talking if you were going to?
Well, because of what's happened, your body's just going into shock, and that's why you're shaking.
Okay, Tyler. Yeah? All right.
Good.
Hearing someone say, "Am I going to die?" It really, really sticks with you. And for her to say that at such a young age as well, that was quite harrowing, really.
That's it. Remember to just breathe in.
We wanted to give her as much care and as much reassurance as we could that that isn't what's going to happen to you.
We've all got kids, so it's always at the forefront of your mind. I would much prefer to fight a Force 11 Gale any day of the week, going out to a fishing trawler or a coaster, than go to a job involving any kids, without a shadow of a doubt.
That's it, Tyler. Well done.
30 minutes after the girls were pulled from the sea, the paramedics arrive at the lifeboat station.
This is Tyler, she's 13 years old, she's taken on a lot of water, been in the water for quite a while. So our main worry is the secondary drowning side of things. Yeah, she's very confused. Your hands, babe. There you go. All right.
It was a good relief to see the ambulance crew come in, because we'd done as much as we could. We'd stabilised them, we'd got them slowly getting warmth, but they needed hospital treatment to get some specialist care, really.
The two girls were taken 6 miles to the nearest hospital and treated for shock and hypothermia.
The weather was really warm, there was like little breeze, and we went in the sea with the paddleboard and we wanted to take turns and just have a bit of a swim and cool down. We started to notice that we was in trouble when we was chasing after the board, and we didn't notice how far back in the sea we actually went. The waves were really powerful and they was pushing us back really hard. We was terrified. We didn't know what to do. First we were together, but then the current became really strong. My friend was able to fight against the waves, but I was just getting pushed further and further back. I remember trying to like pull myself up, but like I was partly giving up and I just felt my head ducking under the water. I thought that I was going to die in the sea. I don't remember much about getting to the beach, but I remember being brought into the lifeboat and given an oxygen mask. I'm so thankful for the people who saved us, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been here today.
I think, if I'm honest, out of 33 years of lifeboating, she's probably the closest that I've ever seen that made it and pulled through. She was a very lucky girl.
It was a big day, that, for me and for everyone involved, because we all worked as one to get the best outcome for those two girls.
The Isle of Mull lies in the Inner Hebrides off the western coast of Scotland. The Hebrides face directly onto some of the roughest seas of the North Atlantic. Of the 238 lifeboat stations around the UK and Ireland, 4 of them guard this stretch of coastline. Mull Station lies on the northeasterly tip of the island in Tobermory.
Tobermory Lifeboat certainly has a large patch. We could go up to 100 miles offshore. If we were to go out west on our patch, the next bit of land you would get to is Newfoundland.
We cover not just the island of Mull, but we cover Ardnamurchan and Morven on the mainland, the islands of Cole, Tiree, Iona, and it's not unusual to have a shack that's 8, 10, 12 hours long.
30-year-old David has been on the Tobermory crew for a decade and a full-time coxswain for the last 4 years.
As you can see from this scenery around about us, we've got massive big rolling hills and big sea cliffs close by. As we get away from the coast, it immediately goes into very deep water. We're in 38 metres of water just now, and we're less than half a mile from the land, so it drops away just really quickly. The most seasoned sailors can get caught out in our patch. No fault of their own, our weather is unpredictable. We'll have a foot of snow one day, gales, and then the next day it's sunshine and it's t-shirts and shorts weather and taps off.
A balmy July evening.
It was a weird kind of night, to be fair. It was like a band of weather that swept all the way up the west coast.
It was forecast, but nowhere near as strong as it had blown through. It was wild. It just blew up out of nowhere.
11 p.m. The Tobermory crew are paged. A yacht is in serious trouble in local waters.
The first information we had was there was a yacht dragging its anchor in the gale force winds, and Oban Lifeboat was busy with another incident, so we were requested if we could go onto their patch to assist with this.
The yacht is 15 nautical miles southeast of Tobermory in Loch Allen. Its anchor has been ripped out of the seabed by the storm and has grounded in shallow water, so can't use its own engine to get out of trouble. It's now in danger of being forced onto rocks and breaking up.
It was going through my head, it was going to be a challenging rescue. A yacht on the rocks there, it might have been minutes before it was catastrophically damaged. The weather was just so strong.
As the Tobermory crew head out into the open sea of the Sound of Mull, the winds increase dramatically with 50-mile-an-hour gusts hitting the lifeboat.
It was force 10. It was driving rain, the wind just kept on picking up and picking up. I couldn't believe that on a July night we were getting wind as strong as this.
We were getting hit with like 50-mile-an-hour gusts. If you're driving 25 knots into it, then that's 75 miles an hour getting hammered.
An hour after the call came in, the Tobermory crew finally reached Loch Allen. But darkness, driving rain and gale force winds are seriously affecting their visibility and communication. The yacht is now perilously close to the shore.
Once we got first sight on the yacht, we could see that they were less than their own boat length from the rocks, so we had to have a plan and we had to do it fast.
The original plan was to get in close, throw a heaving line over to the yacht, attach a tow rope, tow them out, jobs are good. But the wind was catching us on these big gusts and was pushing us. Trying to throw a heaving line into 50-mile-an-hour gusts was never going to work. So then the plan changed and decided to put the wee daughter craft, the Y-boat, in the water.
Yeah, ready, yep. Ready, stop!
The yacht is grounded in the shallows, so the lifeboat can't get any closer. The only way to get a tow rope to it is to place 2 crew members in the Y-boat, a small inflatable dinghy, and send them across with the line in the storm.
Sending the crew that night in the Y-boat was not an easy decision to make. Once the tow rope's in the water, it's very heavy, it gets waterlogged quickly and it does sink, so the crew have got to have a good hold on it.
Yeah, way go.
It is possible to capsize the Y-boat and it's not easy to get it back the right way around in this weather. But it was the only option we had that night and that was what we had to do.
Okay, more, feet. The rope is going to sink and it's going to put weight on the Y-boat. Okay, yep.
The crew must carefully control how fast they let the heavy tow line out to the Y-boat, so it doesn't drag the inflatable under.
Yeah, they just go there now, mate. That's lined up on the yacht now, so you want to take that in.
Battling the storm, the Y-boat crew finally make it to the stricken yacht and get the line to its crew.
Once the tow is established at the Casualty yacht's end, we make fast or tie it off at our end. During the process of this, a big wave picked us up and pushed us back over the tow rope, and it was something we could not control. The weather had hold of us, and we quickly realised that a bit of the tow rope had managed to get underneath our hull.
Pull, come on!
There's now a real danger of the lifeboat's propellers getting caught in the tow line, leaving them powerless. To make matters worse, both boats are now connected by a rope, which they have no control over, in a gale dangerously close to rocks.
It's got jammed on something down the bottom. I'll get the Y-boat to take the slack.
The Y-boat crew return, desperately trying to free the rope from underneath the 7 class.
Go for the slack.
We were at the stern of the lifeboat trying to see if we could get it to come off. But with the strain on the rope with the tide, it was basically impossible.
Just cut it. Yeah.
Running out of options, Coxswain David orders the rope cut to save themselves and the yacht.
I got the Y-boat back in with the boat hook and they snagged it as close as they could to the boat end. They took the deck knife and they cut it. They then passed that back to us so we could establish a shorter but still an effective tow. That was the turning point where we started to feel like we were winning again.
Finally, the 7 class can tow the yacht out of Loch Allen to the safety of open water.
We got out into the Sound of Mull and it was just absolutely flat calm. Just not a breath of wind. It's like somebody had turned off the wind machine and that was it. It was just a nice leisurely tow up north.
4 a.m, 5 hours after the emergency call went out, as dawn breaks, the crew begin the 16-mile haul back to Tobermory. The owners of the yacht, 75-year-old Keith and his wife Nikki, had spent the last 3 months sailing up to Mull from Devon with 2 friends.
Knowing that we are getting older and there comes a time that we recognise you have to give up sailing, we wanted to try and get a trip up to Scotland, which is one of the most magnificent sailing areas in the world. Eric and Pat were keen to do it with us, so it was a meeting of minds.
When Keith and Nikki said that they would like to go to Scotland again, we said, so would we.
Yes,
Without a
love
doubt.
it. When they heard the storm forecast, the 4 sailors decided to shelter for the night in Loch Allen.
I woke up after dark and the wind was howling and I was really worried as to whether the anchor was going to hold all right, so I got up. And I suddenly became aware that Pat was also up and equally worried about the winds.
I heard a thump, 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 and I said, that sounds like the anchor dragging.
We didn't really want to wake the men in case they thought we were just being silly about it. But in fact, I wish we had woken them before and we might not have ended up on the rocks. It was a great relief when we saw the lifeboat coming in. We just knew there was somebody else to come and help us. And we were just grateful that they'd come out in those conditions in the middle of the night.
The 4 sailors were exhausted from the night's dramas, but otherwise uninjured.
I thought our crew was brilliant that night for the teamwork, and every time something happened, we thought our way out of it. You can't always think it's going to work out the way you've planned it to work out, because you're dealing with so many things that you've got no control over. You've got no control over the weather and you've got no control over the sea.
A year on, Keith and Nikki are now selling their yacht.
We knew before we left that we were planning this to be our last major trip. Yes, it's slightly sad that it should end this way, but one has to recognise that as you get older, you can't keep on doing these wild things.
Back home in Merseyside, Tyler has recovered from her ordeal off Rill Beach.
Sometimes I do look back and remember how scared I was and how happy I am to be sat here still. I do look forward to getting back out in the sea again, just to be more careful next time.
And 8 months after falling and breaking his hip on the rocks, 80-year-old Alan is on the mend.
My dad's been banned from checking his pots at the moment until he can at least walk properly, and I think he'll be under constant supervision now. We're going to keep you on a short leash from now on, not let you out our sight.
I haven't been down for a while, just haven't getting around to it, you know, but I'll be down again. Worst things happen at sea.
Underneath the helicopter, the downdraft is phenomenal. It's violent, turbulent, it's almost the eye of the storm.
When someone is in the water, we've got to get there as quickly as possible because they could disappear.
I'm here as well, all right? You don't need to fall any distance on a cliff for it to be shocking, but when you fall from almost the full length of the climb, it's really bad. You've been very brave.